The reactor room in Naboo echoed with the sound of clashing sabers. Obi-Wan, consumed by rage over the death of Qui-Gon Jinn, advanced against Darth Maul with fury. The young Padawan managed to surprise the Sith and plunged the saber into the Zobrik's abdomen, who widened his eyes in pain and hatred. However, contrary to the fate everyone would expect, his body was not divided in two. Maul fell, gravely wounded but alive, and plummeted through the energy ducts. While the people of Naboo celebrated victory and liberation, Maul crawled through the depths of the palace. Blood flowed, but his mind was consumed by only one flame: revenge. "I will return, Jedi," he murmured. In the silence of the underground corridors, his heavy breathing mixed with the echo of hatred. He disappeared into the shadows, believed dead by all, but reborn as an even greater threat. Palpatine, in his disguise as Chancellor, watched the events attentively. For him, Maul's death would have been merely a setback, but sensing his presence through the Force brought a disguised smile. "You survived. Very well, my apprentice," he whispered in his secret office in Coruscant. For Palpatine, Maul's survival only increased his power of manipulation, as he would now have two pieces, Dooku and Maul, to move on the galactic board. Dooku, recently allied to the dark side, was sent to find Maul at a remote outpost in the far reaches of the galaxy. The Count observed the Sith's scarred body, but also the willpower in his eyes. "You carry a rare hatred, Lord Maul. You survived because of it." Maul responded with rancor. "Teach me to transform pain into a weapon, and I will crush the Jedi." Dooku smiled, knowing that warrior would be useful to his master's plan. The following years molded Maul as a shadow of vengeance. Recovered from his wounds, he trained with even more brutality, mixing Palpatine and Dooku's teachings with his own savage style. Each blow he executed in imaginary training had Obi-Wan's face as target. His body had become a living scar, and his mind, a prison of fury. The dark side sustained him, and Palpatine kept the leash short, waiting for the right moment. With the beginning of the Clone Wars, Maul returned to act discreetly. Alongside Dooku, he observed the movements of the Senate and the Jedi Council, always invisible, always ready. "Your time has not yet come, my apprentice," Palpatine would say. "But soon your hatred will be a weapon against those who defy us." Maul accepted, but secretly dreamed of crushing not only the Jedi, but also all who used him as a pawn. When Palpatine tried to assassinate Padmé with the explosion in the hangar in Coruscant, only the senator's decoy died. The failure irritated the Chancellor, who began to architect a new plan. He realized that Padmé had a profound influence over Anakin, and this could be used. If he could remove her from the path or transform her into a bargaining chip, Skywalker's fall would be inevitable. It was at this moment that he decided to give Maul a new mission. "Padmé Amidala is the key to dominating Skywalker's heart," said Palpatine, in his dark room, the cape covering his face. Maul listened on his knees, still marked by the desire for revenge. "Go to Naboo. Bring her to me. Kidnapped. She will be the chain that binds the chosen one to the dark side." Maul raised his head, and his yellowish eyes gleamed. "It will be done, my master. This time, Obi-Wan will not be there to stop me." Meanwhile, in Naboo, Padmé enjoyed a rare moment of peace in her chambers. The winds brought memories of her youth, when war had not yet taken over the entire galaxy. But the tranquility was illusory. Shadows moved beyond the palace columns, and Maul was already approaching in secret. His silent steps echoed like a harbinger of death. Padmé smiled as she watched Anakin seated at the table, lightly demonstrating one of his gifts. The young Jedi lifted a fruit with the Force and guided it gently through the air to her, in a gesture that mixed romanticism and showmanship. Anakin said, "If Master Obi-Wan caught me doing this, he'd be very grumpy." The atmosphere seemed tranquil, but it was broken by a dark presence that made the air heavy. The doors opened with a menacing creak, and a hooded figure appeared in the hall. The red and black face and the yellow eyes left no doubt. It was Darth Maul, alive, with his countenance of hatred even more intense. He advanced slowly, and his voice echoed in the room. "Hello there!" Padmé widened her eyes, surprised and frightened. Anakin stood up immediately, the saber still attached to his waist. Maul only smiled, ready to begin his revenge. The intruder advanced a few steps, the cape opening to show the red and black markings on his face. He was a Sith warrior, and the way he held the saber was clear. He had not come to negotiate. Anakin positioned himself in front of Padmé, his hand on his saber. "Stay behind me," he said firmly. The blue blade ignited, illuminating the hall. On the other side, Maul's double saber roared in red flames, spinning in menacing movements. No words were said, only the silence before the storm. Then the Zabrak advanced with quick and deadly strikes. The clash of blades made the walls vibrate. Anakin was agile and confident, moving with the fury of youth and the strength of the Chosen One. Maul, however, was experience and hatred condensed, each blow coming with lethal precision. Padmé watched frightened, trapped between fear and confidence in Anakin, who blocked impossible attacks from an enemy who seemed to fight in constant fury. Who is he? Padmé wondered, not remembering her encounter with him in the hangar years ago. Retreating a bit more, she tried to maintain distance from the combat. Anakin had no time for questions, his body reacted instinctively. Each defense seemed like a miracle, each counterattack a desperate attempt to contain the red fury that launched against him. The hall filled with blue and red flashes, reflecting in Padmé's astonished gaze. Maul pressed harder and harder, testing the young Jedi's limits. He saw in Anakin's gaze not only courage, but also impulsiveness. He took advantage of this, alternating high and low strikes, trying to break the defense. Anakin roared as he threw Maul backward with the Force, but the Sith spun in the air and landed firmly, opening a cruel smile. "Interesting," he whispered. The duel resumed with even more violence. Anakin fought with boldness, broad and risky movements, trying to force Maul on the defensive. Padmé felt for an instant that he could win, that his passion and power could overcome experience. But the Sith was only studying, waiting for the right opening, and it came at the moment when Anakin launched into too direct an attack. With a swift movement, Maul spun his double blade and struck squarely. Anakin's scream echoed through the hall when his right hand was cut off, falling along with the saber. Padmé brought her hands to her mouth, horrified, while the young Jedi fell to his knees, pain consuming him. Maul raised the blade, ready for the final blow, his gaze full of hatred and pleasure at victory. Padmé ran toward Anakin, desperate, but was stopped by Maul's menacing presence. "No!" she shouted, tears in her eyes. The Sith raised the saber over his head, prepared to finish the Chosen One. The silence in the hall became unbearable, until the metallic sound of doors opening echoed, and dozens of Naboo guards entered with weapons in hand. The blaster fire cut through the air, and Maul retreated with agile movements, dodging and using the saber to block the shots. Anakin, still fallen, tried to rise, but the pain was piercing. Padmé knelt beside him, trying to protect him with her own body, while the guards opened fire on the invader. Maul, however, was not there to die. In an impressive leap, Maul pushed the guards backward with a violent use of the Force. The shots ricocheted against the walls, and chaos was established in the room. Amid the tumult, the Sith grabbed Padmé brutally, lifting her effortlessly. "You're coming with me," he said in an icy tone, dragging her against her will. Anakin tried to rise, but was knocked down again by the pain. Padmé struggled, screaming for Anakin, but Maul gave no time for reaction. With long and firm steps, he took her to the balcony. The guards stopped firing so as not to hit Padmé. Then he jumped outside with the senator in his arms. Outside, a small black ship awaited. The small ship took flight under the guard's gaze, who could do nothing to stop him. Anakin, bleeding and with his face contorted in pain, saw Padmé being taken before his eyes. "Padmé!" he shouted, but his voice was lost amid the roar of the engines. Maul's shadow departed, taking the woman he loved most, and with her, the galaxy's destiny changed forever. In the Jedi Temple, the news of the attack in Naboo shook everyone. Obi-Wan took the wounded Anakin to the medical droids, and when the young man opened his eyes, his first word was Padmé's name. He took her. I couldn't protect her. Obi-Wan tried to calm him, but Anakin was distraught. Master, I know that Sith. When we were just a Padawan and a knight on Tatooine, remember? An enemy with a double saber attacked Qui-Gon Jinn before we entered the ship. I think it was the same one. Obi-Wan closed his eyes, feeling the memory weigh heavy, and responded, If it's true, then he survived, and he's more dangerous than ever. The Jedi Council convened, but could do little. Yoda remained thoughtful, his gaze distant. Shadows grow. Alive, the Sith still is. Wrong, our belief was. Mace Windu looked at Anakin and spoke firmly. You did better than many would. This enemy is cunning. Your defeat was not dishonor. But Anakin couldn't accept it. The feeling of failure corroded him inside. The weight of having lost Padmé to that monster accompanied him in every step. Anakin took refuge in long conversations with Obi-Wan, but the pain still grew. Alone in his quarters, he recalled Padmé's smile, her soft voice, and the silent promise to protect her. Amid this turmoil, a new tragedy fell upon him. Upon sensing that his mother was in danger on Tatooine, Anakin didn't hesitate. He departed in secret without telling anyone. Upon arriving, he found Shmi frail, marked by the Tusken's violence. When she died in his arms, rage exploded. The screams of his soul transformed into murderous fury. With the saber, he exterminated every Tusken warrior in the camp, without distinguishing men, women, or children. Hatred burned stronger than the Force itself in that instant. Upon returning, he remained silent, told nothing to the council, keeping the weight of the massacre within himself. The memory of his dead mother and kidnapped Padmé became an emotional prison. Obi-Wan noticed the change in his apprentice, but didn't understand the depth of the pain. You're more closed off, Anakin. Anger cannot be your guide. But the young man only responded with evasions. Deep down, he swore to himself that one day he would find Padmé, and nothing would stop him from bringing justice to those who had hurt him. Meanwhile, galactic politics boiled. Palpatine, with his sweet and manipulative voice, led the Senate in Coruscant, denouncing the dangers of instability and the rebellion of separatist systems. Padmé, kept in secret captivity, was never seen. Many believed she had died in the attack, and Palpatine took advantage of this, keeping alive only the convenient truth to manipulate Anakin at the right moment. The Jedi Council, not knowing she was alive, concentrated its forces on containing Dooku's movements and the separatists. Yoda constantly warned, Careful, we must be. Not everything in sight is. But without clear information, the Order fought in the dark. Padmé's kidnapping was not just a personal tragedy, but part of a larger plan that the Jedi couldn't decipher. Anakin, even devastated, continued his training. With the mechanical hand replacing the one he had lost to Maul, he plunged into exercises with an intensity never seen. Obi-Wan said, You train as if each blow were against that Sith. Anakin only responded, Because it is. The Chosen One grew in power, molded by pain, and the Council observed, divided between pride and apprehension. The Clone Wars erupted without Anakin having participated in the Battle of Geonosis. Dooku continued being the face of the rebellion, but in the shadows, Palpatine moved his pieces with precision, always preparing the moment when he would reveal Padmé alive as the perfect bait to capture Skywalker's heart. Anakin, already almost a Jedi Knight, developed abilities that surprised everyone. His connection with the Force became intense, almost instinctive. In moments of meditation, he said he could feel Padmé somewhere distant. She's still alive, Master. I know. I can sense it. Obi-Wan tried to dissuade him, reminding him of the dangers of attachment, but the young man's conviction was unshakable. For him, the Force didn't lie. Palpatine, in turn, secretly fed this hope. One day you'll see her again, my boy, he said in private conversations. But for that, you'll need strength. More strength than the Jedi can offer you. Anakin listened, divided between loyalty to the Council and the pain that grew in his heart. Each of Palpatine's words was a seed that germinated slowly. With the end of his training as a Padawan approaching, Anakin became more impetuous and determined. It wasn't just the desire to be a Jedi Knight that moved him, but the love and obsession to find Padmé again. In each mission, in each duel against the Separatists, he saw Maul's reflection in the faces of enemies. And in silence he swore, "One day, I'll find her. One day, I'll finish him." The Clone Wars devastated entire planets, but amid the chaos, Anakin Skywalker showed his true strength. Mission after mission, his name became synonymous with victory. He not only fought with courage, but inspired everyone around him. The young Padawan transformed into a Jedi Knight during the years of war, and at the end of the conflict, the Council recognized his ascension to the rank of Master. He was the youngest to achieve such honor, and even Yoda admitted, "Powerful he has become. In the Chosen One, the Force fulfills destiny." Palpatine, seated in his chair in the Coruscant Senate, watched with satisfaction the boy's growth. He knew that the motivation to find Padmé again and destroy Darth Maul had awakened the hidden potential in Anakin. "A power that the Jedi will never understand," the Chancellor said in a low voice, while secretly scheming. For him, each of Anakin's victories was a piece moving toward the outcome he desired. But along with the title of Master came the visions. In the silence of nights, Anakin dreamed of flames and prisons. In each dream, Padmé's figure appeared imprisoned, screaming for help. He would wake up gasping, cold sweat on his face, and spend hours trying to decipher the Force's signals. The images became clearer until he recognized the surrounding environment, a planet of lava rivers. He knew the name, Mustafar. Unable to bear it any longer, Anakin took his vision to the Jedi Council. "I saw her," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "Padmé is alive, trapped in a fortress on Mustafar. They're not just dreams, they're premonitions." Silence took the room. Obi-Wan stared at his apprentice gravely. Mace Windu, crossing his arms, responded, "If this is true, we cannot ignore it." Yoda concluded, "Risky it is, but go we must." The decision was made. Obi-Wan and Anakin would depart together to rescue her. The Jedi ship crossed space to the volcanic planet. Upon landing, the intense heat and the smell of sulfur already foretold the mission's difficulty. A garrison of Separatist soldiers awaited at the fortress entrance. "Ready for this?" asked Obi-Wan. Anakin only ignited his saber, his gaze fixed. "I won't return without her." The battle began with fury, blasters firing from all sides. With agile movements, Anakin led the advance, reflecting shots and taking down guards. Obi-Wan covered his back. The duo advanced like an unstoppable force. In a short time, the corridors were filled with fallen enemies, and the pair reached the fortress's heart. There, in chambers of dark stone, they found Padmé. She stood up, surprised and emotional. "Anakin, Obi-Wan." The two ran to her, breaking her chains with a single saber cut. But victory would not be so easy. Upon leaving the chambers with Padmé, they encountered in the main corridor two dark presences. Darth Maul waited on one side, his eyes burned like fire, the red double saber spinning in his hands. On the other, Count Dooku raised his curved blade, his face serene but laden with arrogance. The air seemed to compress before the imminent clash. Obi-Wan looked at Anakin and murmured, "I guess I don't need to ask who you choose." The young master gripped the blue saber in his hand and responded without hesitation, "This ends today." It was obvious that his hatred and determination were directed at Maul, the one responsible for so many scars in his life. Obi-Wan needed no more words to understand. He himself would advance against Dooku, while Anakin would rush toward the Zabrak. Padmé watched terrified, knowing this would be the definitive confrontation. The duel between Anakin and Maul was brutal. The Sith spun his double blade with fury, delivering quick and deadly blows. But Anakin was no longer the impetuous Padawan from before. Now he was a Jedi Master, with power superior to any warrior in the galaxy. His attacks fell upon Maul like a storm, and the sound of blades echoed through the corridors of the fortress on Mustafar. Maul resisted, but Anakin's hatred was a dangerous fuel. In a devastating advance, Skywalker struck the enemy's legs, cutting both in a single movement, and soon after cut off one of his arms. Maul fell to the ground, screaming with rage, but still alive. Anakin, however, didn't finish him immediately. He stared at him with eyes full of fury, his chest heaving, as if each blow had been only the prelude to vengeance. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan engaged in fierce combat with Dooku. The Count delivered precise attacks, taking advantage of his technical superiority. Obi-Wan defended himself with mastery, but the pressure was intense. "You cannot win, Kenobi," Dooku said coldly. Still, Obi-Wan held firm, awaiting the right moment, even though the battle's scale weighed against him. It was at this instant that Anakin intervened. Leaving Maul fallen, he turned toward Dooku. He raised his hands, and Force lightning exploded from his fingers, striking the Count squarely. Dooku, surprised, tried to retaliate with his own lightning, but Anakin increased the intensity. The energy clashed between them, illuminating the corridor in violent flashes, until an explosion threw the Count against the wall. Dooku fell to his knees, his face contorted with pain. Anakin approached, the blue blade in hand. "Do you surrender?" he asked, his voice firm. Dooku, defeated and breathing with difficulty, raised his eyes and murmured, "Yes, I surrender." Obi-Wan, relieved, removed from his belt a pair of energy handcuffs, binding the Sith's hands and feet. The Count, humiliated, could do nothing more. "Take him and get out of here with Padmé," Anakin said to Obi-Wan, still gasping. "I'm going to finish what I started. Maul is mine." Obi-Wan frowned, worried. "Anakin, he needs to be tried." The young master responded firmly, "Trust me, this is my destiny. I won't give this up." Reluctantly, Obi-Wan obeyed, guiding Padmé and the prisoner Dooku to the ship. Alone with Maul, Anakin approached the fallen enemy. The defeated Sith still stared at him with eyes full of hatred. "Tell me, who is your master? Who is the Sith Lord who commands all of this?" Maul laughed with contempt, even in agony. "You could never bear the truth." Anakin didn't hesitate and cut off the enemy's last arm, leaving him completely defenseless. "Speak, or nothing will remain of you." Maul gasped, resisting to the limit. But facing death, he finally pronounced the word, "Palpatine." The name echoed through the corridor, like a sentence. Anakin's heart raced. The world spun around that revelation. Without further delay, he raised the saber and, in a single blow, cut off Maul's head. The body fell, and the head rolled to the edge of the platform. Minutes later, Anakin reached the ship. Obi-Wan and Padmé awaited him, with Dooku handcuffed in the back. Without saying a word, Anakin, carrying a piece of cloth with something hanging inside, turned to his Jedi Master, his gaze hard and decided. "Palpatine is the Sith Lord." Silence took the ship's cabin, as everyone understood that the true battle was still to come. The ship landed in Coruscant under the weight of a deadly silence. Obi-Wan looked at Anakin, trying to measure the fury still burning in his eyes. "Master, take Padmé to her quarters and notify the council," Anakin said firmly. Obi-Wan frowned. "Anakin, we need to take this to the council before any action. You cannot act alone." The young man turned, meeting his eyes. "Master, do you trust Qui-Gon? He was the first to believe I am the chosen one. Now I ask you to do the same. I must resolve this. Trust me." Obi-Wan breathed deeply, and with regret responded, "Yes, I trust you." Anakin wasted no time. He followed through the Senate corridors to the Chancellor's office. The doors opened violently, and he threw Maul's head on the polished floor. Palpatine raised his eyes and immediately realized his secret had been exposed. A heavy silence hung in the air. "So, you discovered the truth," said the Sith, trying to maintain the politician's mask, but his eyes betrayed him. "You deceived me, manipulated everyone, and kept Padmé as a prisoner," shouted Anakin, his voice echoing through the room. Palpatine raised his hands in a calming gesture, trying to argue. My young man, you don't understand. Together we could. But the words fell into emptiness. Blue lightning exploded from Anakin's hands, crossing the office. Palpatine reacted, releasing his own dark lightning. The clash of power illuminated the room, the lightning meeting in explosions that shattered glass and threw sparks across the walls. But Anakin's intensity was overwhelming. The Chancellor's body was hurled backward, crashing into the desk. He rose slowly, his face marked by surprise. He realized he couldn't win with dark power alone. With a shout, Palpatine drew his red lightsaber and advanced against the young Jedi. The blades collided with force, illuminating the office in flashes. Anakin fought with precision and fury, each blow carrying the Chosen One's strength. Palpatine was experienced and cunning, but was at a disadvantage against the youth and overwhelming power of his enemy. The combat intensified, furniture and walls being destroyed by the battle's impact. In a quick movement, Anakin spun his blade and struck Palpatine's arm, severing his hand along with the saber. The Sith's scream echoed through the room, but before he could articulate any word, the young Jedi raised the blue saber and, in a precise cut off the Lord of Darkness's head. The head rolled until it stopped before the window, and the body fell lifeless. In the Jedi Council, hours later, Anakin presented himself before the Masters. In the center of the room rested Maul's head, beside Palpatine's. In the middle, Dooku remained handcuffed, his eyes wide in shock at his master's fate. The tension was absolute. Mace Windu broke the silence. Anakin, you should have notified the Council before acting. Anakin raised his gaze, firm and resolute. I told Obi-Wan, and I tell you now, I am the Chosen One. Qui-Gon believed in me before everyone, and I fulfilled what was my duty. Then he looked at Windu and said, he was too dangerous to be left alive. A silence ran through the room. Yoda kept his eyes closed, reflecting, while the other Masters exchanged heavy glances. Windu finally stood up. He looked at Anakin and with a nod said, he identified and killed the Sith Lord who was behind the Clone Wars and the fall of many Jedi. He brought balance to the Force and fulfilled the prophecy. The other Masters remained silent, recognizing that the truth could not be denied. The weight of Skywalker's destiny was present. Anakin was absolved. Dooku was taken under heavy escort. The Council decreed life imprisonment for the Count, who observed Anakin with a mixture of displeasure and respect. There was no longer a master to serve, and his fate was sealed. Padmé, now free, returned to the Senate, but in secret united with Anakin. The two married, building the family that before seemed impossible. The Jedi Order would never be the same. Inspired by love for Padmé and the mistakes of the past, Anakin initiated profound reforms. The rules of attachment were questioned, compassion and humanity began to guide the new order. With time, children were born, bringing renewed hope. And as he looked to the future, Anakin believed he had finally fulfilled Qui-Gon Jinn's promise, to bring balance to the Force. The Chosen One's legacy was not of fall and darkness, but of transformation and rebirth. The Skywalker name became synonymous with a new era for the Jedi, not based on rigid dogmas, but on choices, family, and freedom. The galaxy, at last, breathed a breath of peace after so many years of war.